Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Founders Grid. Today, we have the CEO and Managing Director, Francis of NUMA. Francis, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, give us a brief background about yourself before you got into the entrepreneurial startup domain space world.
Yeah, so, I've been at NUMA for the last bit over 3 years now. I just had my anniversary in March. Previous to that, I have been in sort of the startup space and working at different startup companies, a lot in the education space. I helped run a boot camp in New York called Startup Institute. And then early on in my career, I actually had nothing to do with entrepreneurship or business. I actually majored in music education and was an opera singer before I ever ventured into startups and entrepreneurship.
So, what led you to NUMA and how's the journey been so far?
Yeah, so, I had been working for, other boot camps and educational organizations that were similar models to the accelerator program. And when I joined the New York office for NUMA as one of the founding team members, our headquarters are in France. It was a really exciting opportunity to see, could we build a program from scratch, and build the network around it, bring in value to startups from all over the world. And so it's been a really exciting journey. I was originally the program director for the accelerator and then took over as CEO and managing director for the office about a year and a half ago.
Oh, interesting. So, entrepreneurial DNA, so do you see any commonalities, or is one coast better than the other, or is one continent better than the other, or do you see some pattern to it?
Yeah, I think the US, the mindset for entrepreneurs here is we're very, and just America in general, we're very American centric. Whereas, I am a native New Yorker and am more partial to New York City as it is. But I think one of the really fascinating things, just personally, about NUMA, my work there, is that I really get this beautiful lens into seeing the entrepreneurship ecosystems in so many different countries around the world, and that there are incredible things that entrepreneurs are building like all over the place, from Asia to Latin America. We've had companies from all over Europe, Australia. And so, a lot of times I think in the US, people will do a competitive landscape and only be looking at the other businesses and things that are happening in the U.S. But there's incredible businesses that are global and worldwide and in other markets.
Interesting. Unfortunate times, Corona, COVID, and many even the VCs are rethinking their investment thesis and approach towards post-COVID, right? So, do you see a pattern shift in that? And if yes, then what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs going forward?
Yeah, it's a challenging moment. Like, we've been speaking with a lot of our portfolio and our alumni on what's happening for their businesses. There are certain industries that are definitely impacted more than others. Like, for example, retail, and unless it's an essential business, has taken a really hard hit. And so a lot of our startups that are selling into retail then, of course, are having more challenges. As much as possible, we're encouraging our startups to use this as a time of opportunity to adapt. Like, what are the current needs at this moment of your customers, and how can you shift your product to be answering those needs? Like, we have a company in our most recent cohort in the retail space, Houdini, that does queue management for big retailers. And they're adapting now to provide that for retailers, both in essential businesses, for making sure that their queues are adhering to safety regulations 6 feet apart, plus helping organizations that are inundated now, like the online e-commerce, with virtual queues. So how can you adapt right now to answer your customers' needs? And that, yes, venture capital is going to be a little bit more hard, and they're going to be shifting their focuses in terms of which industries. But I think if you can adapt your business and continue to service those needs, that you can stay afloat in this time.
Interesting. So, last question, going forward, which industries or domain? I know it's speculative right now, but which industries or domains do you see the money going towards? Would it be biotech, deliveries, or anything apart from that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because there's a lot of shifts right now in where the money is going and what businesses are doing really well. So obviously, grocery, online delivery, e-commerce, the different solutions that are fulfillment for those organizations, healthcare, bio, of course. But there's going to be, I think, different challenges that we have as we start to reopen, right? Like we're not always going to be in this situation where we're remote. So which things are going to stay and which things are going to change and adapt? Because there is going to be a moment where retail stores do reopen, but the kind of regulations they need to adhere to from a health and safety perspective are going to probably change. And so I think there's going to be more focus on some of those industries continued, but I think the boom that we're seeing is going to also slow at a point. And, of course, Zoom is doing really well right now, but like I do see a moment where that is going to shift back to us being in person again.
Interesting. Interesting. Thank you, Francis. Thank you so much for being on the show. Stay safe and take care.
Thanks so much. You too.